Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been open now going on 13 years. We have over 40 plus years in quality, aerospace, medical implants, printing, plastic distribution, where we dealt with every industry under the sun. This video today is about FAA regulator Boeing, 2009 to present, enters new territory with federal probe possible criminal charges. Within the context of the article, it's going to be down in the description, like many of the articles will be, and videos, to express to you, the people who are watching me all the time and those who are new to my channel, it is going to show you and it's going to define for you that in 2009, the FAA made Boeing a regulator. That means that they did not have to tell anyone about the MCAS system that they put on those two planes that they crashed, 737 Maxes for Ethiopian and Indonesian Air. They didn't have to tell them. They didn't have to tell them about designs because they are the FAA. The bad thing is that the FAA designate in Boeing, we're getting their salary from Boeing. So they really are a Boeing employee first and FAA representative afterwards. So there's a little piece that I want to read to you, ladies and gentlemen, business owners, my fellow citizens. Federal regulators said Boeing didn't tell the airlines or the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, the extent of software, how it controls the planes and the background and how to disable it. So they're talking about violations and frauds. Our government, the DOJ. I'm going to show you. We have Mr. Garland here, the head of the DOJ, and they sit on ANSI's board. All of these agencies sit together on the American National Standards Institute board, and we're going to go. In 2000, of course, in April of 2024, I went down to discuss and to support Mr. Salipur, who is the whistleblower for 777, 787. He was talking about the designs. We're going to show you that shortly. I have documentation here that shows you that not only is the designs messed up, but also you have the factor that for over 22 years, Boeing gave up supplier auditing to a piece of paper. They gave up special processes like prime, non-destructive testing, heat treat, welding to one supplier, and they go in, you take the certificate, you send it to them, our heat treat process is good, Boeing, here it is, and that's it. So Boeing doesn't have to send anybody there. This is Boeing, here we go. You have the American National Standards Institute, which is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation which has federal agencies and corporations on board. It's almost 100 plus years old. ANSI took over complete control over ANAP, the American National Standards Institute, the American National Accrediting Board, in 2018. Between 2015 and 21, they were watched over by a communist Chinese national who was involved with our quality for over 30 years. His name is Zhao Jinwu. I had a picture. You'll find him down below in other articles as well. ANAP has over 10 different registrars in communist China that can issue an ANSI ANAP accredited certificate. You also have the factor that ANSI and ANAP, but ANSI was the founder of the IF. The International Accreditation Form is incorporated in Delaware, where the Chinese national was the leader, the chairman. Also, the factor is that ANSI and ANAP are underwriters for the IAF, the International Accreditation Form, which is a repository for both national and international accreditation bodies, and also ILAC, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation out of Australia. As I said, they're sister organizations. When I went down to Washington, this committee is part of the Department of Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee investigations. The sad part is that you find out that the Department of Homeland Security sits on ANSI's board, right over by Boeing. You also have the factor that you have a Mr. Phil Matheson, who is the Executive Director of Office Standards, U.S. Department of Homeland Security. He was making $262,000 on top of his federal salary as a royalty payment. Now it's a various payment. And I have to tell you that because now you have the situation where you have ANSI and ANAP. You have both those organizations sitting on a sitting on, the IAF between 2015 and 21, while a communist Chinese national who is mandated by his country of origin, communist China, to take data, like the Department of Homeland Security, through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. We have Mr. Morakis. He stopped in. Thank you, sir, for stopping in today. We also have the Department of Justice here. Department of Justice with Merrick Garland. They sit on ANSI's board, right over by Boeing, right over by the FAA, etc. Here is an actual federal contract that shows you that ANSI, ANAB are underwriters. They are underwriters for the IAF and ILAC, of course, and that's on a governmental contract. And this governmental contract was, standard operating work order was given out in 2018 when, again, China was watching over the IAF, and it calls out for the IAF. Now we go further. You have Boeing. You have Boeing sitting on the ANSI, ANAB, over by the Department of Justice, over by the Department of Homeland Security. In April of 2002, Boeing put out a notification. As you can see, the web link over there, the web link over there, you type that in and you'll find out that this is for special processes, like I told you. Heat treat, welding, etc., non-destructive testing. And it basically says this: you hand in your certificate. Well, actually, you go to Performance Review Institute. They come in, look at your systems, send them the cert, Boeing, and they don't have to come in to do even a sample inspection. That's in April of 2002. In July of 2002, you have Boeing's supplier bulletin, and it basically states this: you have to be ANSI ANAB accredited because Boeing sits on their board to grant, suspend, and withdraw certification, and mentioned it in the supplier portal. They are mentioned in the supplier bulletin. So you send in your certificate, you send in your parts, and Boeing doesn't have to do anything for 22 years. This is another crazy thing, is that this is telling you right off the bat that Boeing became self-certified in 2009. Also, it says this new system allows Boeing employees to perform tasks on behalf of the FAA that include oversight of testing product standards along with certification of aircraft technologies. There's MCAS. They don't have to tell anyone because they are designated an FAA regulator. And also new aircraft designs. The FAA appointed in-house company inspectors who report most of their findings to the FAA. And I've told you time and time again, they're getting their salary from Boeing. So their first allegiance as an FAA designate is to report it back to their management. And while they were FAA regulator, they were fudging documentation. On top of it, they most recently, by the DOJ, got fined $8.1 million from 2007 to 18, 11 years, skipping processes. You have also the Federal Aviation Administration sitting on ANSI's board. Okay, here's Boeing once again. And here's Boeing sitting on ANSI's board, the Management System Accreditation Committee, that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. And here is Boeing with, and there it is. You can see it that they are demanding it's got to be ANSI, ANAB, or internationally equivalent. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave this here. I think it is very detrimental to us when we see these intertwined alliances, and it's not good. And it is preposterous, as we can see here. I'm going to leave it here. You can find out, of course, that they have to have, and I'm telling you honest, they have to have an oversight for the FAA. The FAA has failed us. The FAA made Boeing a regulator, right? They made them an FAA. They're FAA. They didn't have to tell anyone about MCAS, all of these publications. Now, after I went there, after I was at that meeting, I had Politico get me talk to me. I had Bloomberg, I had New York Times, I had Wall Street Journal, I had New York Post, etc., etc. They want to know what it was. As soon as I told them that Boeing gave up their supplier auditing for 22 years, they said, "We can't do that, Daryl. You're a quality, expert of 40 years. We can't do that because you're going to make all the passengers scared." I said, they should be scared. Okay, because when the FAA made Boeing a regulator in 2009, they did not use that honor. They used the honor to cut corners. I'm going to leave it here, business owners, my fellow citizens. My telephone number is 203-556-1493. So that's what they did. They cut corners with that that designation as an FAA regulator, and they are. Can you imagine that? 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS at yahoo.com. I do this because I give a damn. Unlike these critters over here. David Calhoun leaving with $45 million. I sent my CV into Boeing because they need somebody who's going to roll up their sleeves, not a guy who's going to go on the golf course.